Mitchell, case number 24-CR-1176. The defendant is present counsel John Fatika. We're set today for a sentencing hearing. We were last before you on November 8th, 2024. At that time, the defendant pled guilty to one count of aggravated possession of felony in the 5th degree with a forfeiture specification. During that hearing, a pre-sentence report and drug and alcohol evaluation were ordered. Those reports have since been completed, and the defendant has 50 days of jail time credit. Thank you.
Mr. Fatika.
Good morning, Your Honor. I've reviewed the PSR. I'd like to highlight the fact that Mr. Mitchell has no prior felony convictions, no offenses of violence. During his 50 days at the Lake County Jail, there were no incidents. He was released after his plea to go to the Alpha House. He was there for a month and a half. He left there, it appears, on January 1st. He started outpatient at Lake Geauga on January 7th. Part of that requires him to attend AA meetings. He's currently living with his mother. We've submitted some letters on his behalf. We asked the court to consider community control sanctions here.
Where you been?
With my mother, going to AA meetings.
Well, you got an OR bond to go to treatment, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you left?
Yes.
Why?
I guess I wasn't crystal. After meeting with the lady who, like, through the court did like my analysis, drug and alcohol. I think her name's Lisa. I guess I was under the impression that I could go seek outpatient. So, like, the day I left.
Who gave you that impression?
What was that?
Who gave you that impression?
The day that I went and did like my pre-sentence investigation with the lady, like through the court, I believe her name's Lisa. I had spoken to her and explained my like plan, and she thought it was she thought that was an okay plan. So that same day, well, not that same day.
Now listen.
Yeah.
You've been on probation a number of times.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Fatika points out this is your first felony, but you had three or four other felonies that were reduced to misdemeanors, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you know you've been on probation.
Correct.
You violated probation a number of times. So don't give me this bullshit about that you're trying to feed me about this, okay? You were let out on an OR bond specifically to enter into treatment. You left treatment. Did you call the probation department and say you left treatment?
No, because I don't know who I would talk to.
How about somebody in the probation department?
Okay.
Now you said in the course of this pre-sentence report, you wrote that one of the reasons this charge occurred is because you're a selfish person.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't changed. You're still a selfish person.
Every day.
Why did you leave Alpha House?
I'm honestly.
Yes, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real struggle not being able to provide. Like, I have a 3-year-old son.
Okay.
His mother.
Why don't? How long have you been playing around with drugs now?
On and off for my whole 20s.
Okay.
On and off. I mean, there's periods of sobriety in there.
Okay. So what you've done so far isn't working.
Not at all.
So you go to Alpha House, and you didn't want to follow through on that because you thought that program wasn't sufficient. What?
I guess. I mean, prior to going there, like people I had to do research, I guess I was misled. Like I was told that there's vocational programs there. I was told that it was a sober living environment. So when I got there, it was a completely. I was told that like the faith aspect was like it's a faith-based treatment, but they don't push it. But then it was like there was things that were mandatory, like on New Year's Eve, which was the incident from like 11:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. It was mandatory. We had to go pray. A lot of us just wanted to go to sleep because we're upset because we couldn't see our family or anything, couldn't call them.
Well, whose fault is that?
Our fault, my
Right.
fault. I put myself in that situation.
Right.
Correct, Your Honor.
So why does it upset you?
Because I feel like I've been living quite a while as identifying as like Charles the alcoholic, Charles the addict. I just want to do the work and be Charles,
Well,
not,
if you wanna do the work, you have to do the work. That doesn't mean picking up and leaving and not telling anybody. Now, if I sent you over for a urine screen right now,
I pass.
you'd pass. Well, I guess
Yes.
we're gonna find out.
Yeah, no, 100%, I'll pass, 100%. October 1st is my sobriety date,
Okay.
so I'll pass. And one thing I do want to say is I do agree that there is work that needs to be done, which is why that same day before, went there to Lake Geauga in Mentor and got that. That was the first stop I made,
When did you go there?
December 31st.
Well, I thought the prayer thing was 11:30 at night till 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah, so the disagreement, that's what caused like the disagreement, which led to me having a discussion with the pastor, which was like.
When did you leave there on the 30th?
December 31st.
When? What time?
Like 1 PM?
So the prayer thing was to be at 11:30 at night,
Correct.
and you left before that even occurred.
Yes, because we were told prior to that, and there was people that were upset about it, so before we had to go there, we were trying to
What
talk.
people were upset about it?
A couple of the residents in the,
Who cares? Why do you care
oh,
if
I don't care
another
about.
resident's upset?
No, I don't, I'm just explaining that there was multiple people that were upset. I don't care that they were upset, I was just worried about me. That's why I had a conversation with the pastor, and it was kind of agreed that maybe this isn't the right place for me.
Okay. So you were let out on bond to go there.
Okay,
So when you left there, you were in violation of your bond.
I didn't realize that.
Well, you ought to pay attention to this stuff.
When I saw, yeah, I should've.
Because you're a veteran on this stuff, right? You've been on probation a number of times. You know how it works. You don't like to follow because you violated it a number of times also, right? Including picking up new charges while you've been on probation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also, I don't know if it matters, but I also successfully completed probation the last time I was on it.
Okay. What does that mean, to successfully complete probation?
I went my period of probation without having it revoked or having them,
How did you manage to do that?
I stayed sober.
Okay.
To be blunt, the accountability of going to is a scary thing. And knowing I was going there every 2 weeks to get urine tested and all that, and understanding
When did you successfully complete probation?
I got off in 2023. I got off in August of 2023. So I was on from 2021 to 2023. Just be honest. Yeah.
And so why did you go back to using drugs again?
I didn't know how to cope.
If you were sober while you were on probation, why did you
There
go
was
back to using drugs?
things in my life that I didn't know how to cope with, and I didn't want to accept.
Like what?
The relationship with my son's mother, my past use kind of ruined that relationship because it's hard being with somebody that uses drugs, understandably so. And she made the decision at that time to move on. And my dream picture of like the American dream with, the husband, the wife, and the kids was shattered. And I didn't know how to cope with it. Instead of talking to people, I isolated, and that's what it led to.
Was that a shock to you? That's what it led to?
A shock?
Yes.
Like the shock of her leaving?
No. The shock that you used drugs again because you isolated.
In hindsight, no. I mean, in the moment, that's not what I was seeing, but in hindsight, correct, like 100%. I ignored my support system. So, I didn't call I had a sponsor at the time. I didn't call them. I stopped going to my home group.
Where were you getting these drugs?
Pine Ridge and Willoughby. I don't know his name. I know his phone number.
Why do you
wait, his name. I know his name. His name's Cody.
Okay. Why did you have his name and phone number?
Why do I have it?
Yeah.
I just memorized it from dialing it so many times. I got a pretty good memory. And I also was under the impression that you might ask me, so.
Why were you under that impression?
Well, I was just told that.
By who?
My attorney. when I was in jail. He just told me to be honest. So he said if he asked where I got like the stuff from, to be honest.
How old are you?
30.
Where do you work?
Nowhere yet. I just started putting applications in.
Where did you work last?
It's called Grand Rock. It's on off. I don't know the street name, but it's in Paynesville. It's like an exhaust manufacturing plant. I actually, when I left Alpha House, one of the things, my major things was like, I just want to be able to provide for my son financially. So I have an interview at Classic on Friday. I used to work as at Advanced Auto Parts in Carvana as like the counter person. So I have an interview there to be like at the parts counter for. So I mean, I've done a lot of wrong stuff for a long time, and I know this sounds
I know
like,
that because I looked at
Yeah.
the record.
no, and I know this sounds like BS coming from me, but it's like, I feel like I'm disgusted by that person now, having seen someone close to me go through that stuff and all the lying and the manipulation
Who?
and all that.
Who?
My son's mother. She turned to drinking. So like having see somebody like completely destroy their life and all that, it's given me a perspective like
Do either of the two of you give a shit about your 3.5-year-old son?
I do. I do not. I do. When
Then
I'm using.
Then why are you here? Obviously, he's not a priority for you. You're a priority for you. All you care about is you. Why is that?
That's what I'm working on trying to find the answer to.
How are you trying to find the answer to that?
I mean, I'm going through the steps again. I'm doing an outpatient. I mean, I have a counselor. I'm hopefully.
But you went through the steps before
Yeah.
and stayed sober and it didn't work. So what, are you gonna do the same thing?
I'm not going to do the same thing. No.
I mean, if I beat my head against a brick wall, it hurts.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not gonna do that again.
Yeah.
So,
I think.
so you told me that you isolated after you successfully completed probation and stayed sober, and then used drugs again.
Yeah.
So why did you do that? Do you know why you did that?
Yeah. At the time, like I said, there was this is right when I got off probation. My son's mother was.
You told me what happened.
Yeah,
okay?
well, that's
But
why.
the question is not what happened, you told me what happened, I already
Okay.
know that. The
Why?
question is why, as a result of that, did you isolate, which then you say led to your drug use?
I didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust anybody to talk to.
Why
anybody.
don't you trust anybody?
There was I know this is like the what, but the what contributes to the why. Somebody that was, I found out she was interacting with another male, and it
So,
just,
is
for
she
me,
your property?
at the time, like you said, I was being selfish, and yeah, I guess I thought of it like that, you're right. And then, so I just had a complete distrust for everybody, until you find out that there are actually people that unconditionally care about you, so,
Like who?
my sponsor,
Who else?
my mother, all my family, even my son's mother to some degree. She cares about my well-being, obviously. My son, the perfect definition of unconditional love is my child. No matter what I do, he still loves me regardless.
How long do you think that's gonna continue?
It depends what path I
Don't you
go down.
think a 4-year-old knows more than a 3-year-old?
Yeah,
And a
correct.
5-year-old knows more than a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
How long is it gonna take him to figure out that all you care about is you?
It depends what path I go down. If I go down
Well,
the path that I think I'm going.
How could you answer that question in that way? So you wanna choose what path you go down?
Well, no.
Or do you wanna go down a different path? What do you wanna do?
I want to go down the right path.
Then why don't you do it?
I think I'm doing it now.
Well, you're not doing it because you left Alpha House for a bullshit reason, okay? Because you didn't want to be bothered with having to pray at 11:30 to 12:30. Now, you could have done what most of these knuckleheads do with the jail treatment program and stare at the wall for 30 days. You could have gotten by in an hour doing that. You didn't want to, though. You didn't want to be there. See, your problem is, and your history indicates is, you do what you want to do when you want to do it because that's what you want to do. And you're 30. You're not 16. You're 30. So what is it you want to do with your life?
I want to be a man. I want to provide for the people I care about. That's my number one priority. And that entails being a
You want that to be your number one priority.
I need that to be my number one priority.
Yeah, but it isn't.
Correct. I want to take the steps to make it now. I genuinely do. And I know you hear that all the time, but only my actions from here on out will show if I mean what I say. And I guess I would just ask for the opportunity to show you, like, through my actions, because I could sit here and talk all day, but talk is who I want to be. My actions are who I am, and I want to show you the actions, like, that I want to take, that I'm going to take to be that person. Be accountable, be responsible, somebody that, like, actually pays their court fines, actually buys stuff for their children, you know what I mean? And I genuinely apologize for leaving the house. I guess I didn't have the complete clarity that I should have, and I should have taken different steps. And I hope you can see at least that, like, having gone immediately to another place, like, at least my intentions were still to get treatment. You know, like, I didn't just sit around and do nothing from when I left to now.
Well, I don't know that, other than you telling me that.
Well, Lake Geauga wrote a letter explaining, like, that I started IOP and that I went there for an assessment.
How long does the IOP last?
6 months. And then there's aftercare,
More
which
like
is once a week.
More like 12 weeks?
Yeah, so
How many times a week?
IOP 3 times a week.
How many hours?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 o'clock to 1 p.m. And then aftercare, they explained to me, was just 1 day a week. Depending on, my plan is to have a job then, so, like, depending on how my job goes, like, I don't know what hours that'll be, but. And then obviously, through Lake Geauga, I'm required to go to 3 AA meetings a week, so I went to one last night.
So going back to when Mr. Fatika said this is your first felony, so do you expect me to treat you as if you're a first-time felon?
Honestly, I expect you to treat, I would hope, my hope for that, but I understand that in reality, you can, as long as, like, within the laws, you could sentence me to whatever is fitting. But my hope and my plea is that you treat me like one. But I do understand you can.
I wonder if you had been convicted of a felony before, instead of, is it 3 or 4 misdemeanors, Ms. Bell?
Looks like there are 4 misdemeanors on his record.
4 misdemeanors. So if one of those felonies had stuck as a felony, I wonder if you'd be here now. I wonder if you'd have wised up by then. Because, listen, this ain't gonna be one of these things where if you violate, that I give you time in jail and then end your probation. Because I'm a little, as a resident of Lake County, I'm a little offended that 4 times you got felonies and 4 times they turned into misdemeanors. That seems completely inappropriate. And all that did was encourage and enable you to continue to screw around. Why were you out there driving if you didn't have a license?
Well, I don't know if it's in the records at the jail or whatever, but I did not feel well that night, and I was trying to go to, the Cleveland Clinic on 615. I ended up
Why
having
did you not feel well then?
Well, I ended up having pneumonia.
Did you think that the drugs you had on you would help with your pneumonia?
No, it didn't.
So why were you driving all these other times then?
Because I'm selfish.
Right.
I mean,
So you don't really care the fact that you don't have a license and you haven't had one for a long time?
yeah,
You don't care about that?
I didn't, correct.
Right, you don't. Now, since September, what have you done to try to get a license? I got the answer, nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. Because you don't really care about the fact that other people have to go through getting a license, renewing a license, paying insurance, so that they and everybody else are protected. You don't care about that. So when are you gonna get a license?
I think I can tell you the steps I need to take. I owe,
What?
I think it's not much, it's less than $50 to like the Ohio Attorney General, because there was something in collections. And then once that's paid, then I
What was
get
in collections?
a traffic, I had a ticket from Willoughby Municipal Court, and it was like, I don't know, I don't remember the original amount, but I thought I had paid it, but then I found out I still owed like, it was like less than $50, maybe 25, I'm not sure. But they have like I don't know what that's called when you don't pay court fines and they put a hold on your license, but that,
You ought to find out what that's called.
and then after that, I'm required to get an SR-22. And with those steps, I mean, I'd have a valid license.
So it's not that complicated.
No, it's less than $300.
If it's not that complicated, why haven't you done it?
Because I'm selfish and I'm impulsive, and I just think, sometimes I do before I think, if that makes sense. And what I do a lot of times is to benefit me.
It doesn't seem to work very well.
No, I end up in this chair. And it sucks.
And so you drag your mother out here to court.
Well,
Why do you treat her with such disrespect?
I don't have a license, so I need a ride here.
You know what, I don't know much about this kind of stuff, but there's this thing called like Uber and Lyft and all that stuff. I don't know how to do it or anything, but you're 30 years old, I
Yeah.
bet you know how to do it. Where do you live?
Painesville,
Where?
off Diamond Center, Cobblestone Court.
Okay, I bet it would take 25 minutes to walk here.
Yep.
So why didn't you, instead of dragging your mother here, why didn't you leave the house at 9 o'clock and start walking?
Because of the conversation that we had, I was under the impression she was coming here in like support of me, I guess, if that makes sense. That she wanted to be here to,
Well, it makes sense from her perspective.
yeah.
Now, you certainly haven't earned that from her.
No. No, I haven't. I mean, she was born in 1955. I'm quite frankly, I'm the one that should be taking care of her. And that's
That's
not.
a frightening thought since you can't take care of yourself.
Yeah, no.
Where did you go to high school?
East Lake North,
When did you graduate?
2012.
What did you do after that?
I started going to Lakeland Community College. I was just doing prerequisites. And then later that year, I got diagnosed with something called Crohn's disease. I had surgery on it, or I had a bowel resection. It was a pretty big surgery. After that, I was in the hospital. That's not, I don't want to sound like I'm blaming, because I'm not blaming, but that heavily influenced me into my original addiction, which was opiates. I was on Percocet for a couple of years because of it. And now that's not, I mean, I'm not saying I used all that because I had surgery, because I can't tell you I'd never had surgery if I wouldn't have done the same thing. But that's what got me started on that. And I ended up dropping out of college, getting a job at Conrad's in Willoughby. I worked as a mechanic for like approximately 6 years. And then things started going really bad.
Are you a good mechanic?
I'd like to think I am. They thought enough of me that I was. I was not the lead technician there, but second, so. I think my industry, or my knowledge of like the whole automobile, having worked as like parts, in the parts department, having worked there, everything really, but like the front end of like the service, I think I'm well versed in automobiles, period.
Anything else you want to say?
I mean, I just want to once again express my my apologies to the incident that originally happened, because I don't realize at the time that I'm actually affecting the whole county as a whole, because situations could happen. Because of that, I apologize for that, and then I apologize to the court for violating the bond by leaving Alpha House. And all I can say is I hope the actions that I've taken after that show that like I'm interested
Well,
in treatment.
they don't really show me anything, okay? They show me that there's something in place. That's all it shows me. Maybe. Ms. Bell?
Thank you, Your Honor. The state had the opportunity to review the pre-sentence report, and at the time that I reviewed the report, it was encouraging. The defendant stated that he wanted to stay at Alpha House for as long as possible and then go to sober living after that. Certainly the change in circumstances is discouraging. I guess the state would recommend and would suggest that community control is still appropriate in this case, despite this change in circumstance, but the state would ask that treatment be part of this community control sanction. Thank you.
All right, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report and the drug and alcohol evaluation, the communication and support of Mr. Mitchell. Listen to Mr. Mitchell, counsel. Considered all the provisions in 29, 29, 11, 12, and 13. I'm going to place you on community control for 5 years. You're going to serve 50 days in jail with credit for 50. You're to have no drugs or alcohol with screens. You're going to complete the IOP program at Lake Geauga, and you're going to follow all the recommendations. You're going to get a mental health evaluation and follow all the recommendations. You're going to attend at least 3 AA meetings a week and maintain a sponsor. You're to obtain and maintain full-time employment. You're to get a valid driver's license by April 8th of this year, because as you've explained it to me, there's no reason it can't be done well within that time. You're to go to only one doctor and one dentist and one pharmacy for any prescription medication. You're to take your medication only as it's prescribed. You're going to sign releases so probation can get your records whenever they need them or whenever they want them. And you're going to pay the costs and supervision fees. Any other terms, Ms. Henley? And you're going to complete the decision points program.
Do what they tell you to do. That's the answer. Do what they tell you to do. Do what they tell you to do. That's the answer to all your questions. Just do what they tell you to do. They sent me a letter about jury duty. Yeah. You're not eligible for jury duty. Okay. Just call. There's a number on there. Call the mail. Okay.
Any question about the terms?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand the terms?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you don't comply, then I'm going to presume that you're not interested in being on probation, so I'll send you to prison for 12 months. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If that happens when you get out, you might be on post-release control to the parole authority for up to 2 years, and then they'll put conditions on you. And if you ignore their conditions and you violate, they could send you right back to prison for up to 9 months for each violation, up to 1/2 of my sentence. And if the violation's a new felony, then you could get an additional consecutive prison sentence for the violation, which would be either 12 months or whatever time is left on post-release control, whichever is more. The items subject to forfeiture are forfeited, the remaining counts dismissed. Anything else, Ms. Bell?
Nothing for them, thank you.
Mr. Fatika?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, I think at 30 years old, it's time to quit screwing around, because if you continue to screw around, you ain't going to enjoy the consequences.